Welcome to the Enlighten Up podcast, where I am going to take you into a deep exploration of what it means to exist in this current reality. We are going to raise your vibes, open your mind, expand your heart, and dive deep into the wondrous mysteries and possibilities of this lifetime. There's been a spiritual catalyst that has set in motion the awakening process of many across the globe to return to the knowingness of self and unite what has been separated. Together, we're going to bring light into that darkness. We're going to remember the joy of living. But most of all, we're going to turn up the volume of our own eternal power and do the thing we're here to do. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Enlighten Up podcast. Today I have two brand new guests joining me today. I have Elena Bensonoff, from the founder of Holistic Quantum Healer Institute, and a #1 best-selling book on the holistic medicine. She's a pioneer in the field of functional, regenerative, and quantum medicine. She has been sharing her gift of healing for over 25 years. She began her journey as a clinical pharmacist and has fully transitioned and evolved her practice into holistic quantum medicine. She's helped thousands of people all over the world find inner peace, vibrant wholeness, profound healing, and help reclaim energy with proven natural programs. Together with her life partner, Alejandro Ferradas, they created a groundbreaking vibrational frequency system analyzing the quantum biofield using scalar wave technology and reading thousands of people across the globe, from historical figures to private clients, to help raise the consciousness of humanity. It is so great to have both of you here. Welcome, Alejandro and Elena. How are you both doing today?
Thank you for inviting us. We're doing good,
Yes,
I think. Really
doing
good.
great. Thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah, I found you both a couple months ago, and I was looking at some of your work, and I found it highly interesting. And there seems to be some crossover with some of the work that I've been studying and I talk about with a lot of my audience. So I wanted to invite you both on to share what you're doing, and I think you're doing some great work. And you both, what I found really interesting is you're both working with the scale of consciousness, and you've evolved it even further beyond what we found in the book Power versus Force. Do you want to chat a little bit about how you came across the field, like just even the field of consciousness and how that whole scale works?
Well, I guess you could say Dr. Hawkins is an inspiration for many, many people, but there's been many, many different scales of consciousness. If you look at Abraham Hicks' work too, she also has her own scale of consciousness. So for us, initially, it started off as a point of reference more related to health and chronic conditions, right? Because of my background in health and medicine. And we use scalar wave technology first to pinpoint why certain chronic conditions were not improving in people, right? And one of the things that we've seen as an example is certain viruses would be embedded in a person's biofield or human energy field, together with a specific event that occurred in their life, most likely when they're children, and also it was imprinted as an emotion. So when we recognized that there is an event and an emotion that triggers a certain sequence of events that leads to specific chronic conditions, Alejandro and I decided to use the scale of consciousness initially to go through a person's life. So we wanted to pinpoint at what stage in a person's life it happened. So we've actually expanded and created our own scale. We're calling it the Vibrational Frequencies of Awakening, and we're able to look at a person's entire lifetime. So let's say you're 70 years old or you're 50 years old. We can look from the moment of incarnation. We can also see if a person drops at birth And what led to that drops? Meaning, is it ancestral things? Most likely it's the events that are occurring in the womb when the woman or your mom is pregnant with you. So we can pinpoint all the events, situations, emotions that occur throughout a person's life that contribute to the vibrational frequency drops and also the rising of it. And we seen, working with literally thousands of people, incredible journeys and a lot of data. So we've been able to collect a lot of data. So we have a lot of information that we share with people. So for those people that are interested, they can join our Vibrational Revelations community and learn from there as well.
Okay, I'm very intrigued here right now because so first off, when you were talking about how, for instance, just using a virus as an example, I find this highly intriguing just because my entire spiritual journey got deepened through me contracting like a virus that my body just wouldn't let go of when I was 20 years old. So are you saying that the virus tends to get trapped because of a particular event earlier on, an emotional frequency, and there is something around that traps the virus to make it stay in the body and not move through the body and be released?
Well, everything, first of all, is a vibration, right? And information. So we can say virus is information.
Yes.
Okay. So it's not like a microorganism, it's actually information. So let's talk about Epstein-Barr, which is one of the chronic fatigue viruses, right? So most likely, I would say in your case, of course, we didn't dive deep into your case. There was an event that happened when you were a child and something else reoccurred in your life later on. As you said, you were 20, that re-triggered that particular event from the point that you were, when you were younger and you experienced it. So most likely it's the reinforcement of something that occurred much earlier in your life. And if it's something that you would want to know, of course, there's a way to find out exactly what it was.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure I know what it is. I've done a lot of work on that, but that's really interesting. And so you designed your own technology that you're using, and how did you come across, like, how did you develop it? Or like, what were some of the key steps of leading you to creating it?
Well, health and wellness is an area that I've been in for, over 25 years now. So for me, it has always been looking at the root cause of what is creating an imbalance in a person's system. So initially I started off in a very linear, you can imagine, training, but it's fascinating because as a child, I've always been open-minded and curious about the nature of reality and the nature of you can say chronic conditions, what is making us sick and what is making us age, right? So it has been a journey of creating different systems, I would say. And part of it is the training that I teach, the holistic quantum healer training. So we're now a certified practitioner, so people who want to actually help other people, whether they have private practices or they just want to learn it for themselves. But the actual system, part of it was taught to us by somebody else. But that system we've kind of taken and molded and created something new out of it. Okay.
Oh, okay. Very, very nice. And so I guess for my audience, it would be great for you to share your story, because you've suffered from a lot of chronic illness from a child. And I find that so often some of the great healers here in this world have had to go through very difficult experiences with their health to get to the place where they know how to help others. And that's part of the journey. Would you like to share with the audience how it all kind of began for you?
Of course. It's so interesting because just last night, I have 4 kids, and I was having a conversation with my youngest daughter. She'll be 18 this year. And she's like, Mom, why is it that I'm so sensitive to food, to different things? And I said, Sophia, this is what makes you such an amazing human being, because it's that sensitivity that is a gift. And we actually talked about it today. It's the gift of understanding how our body, mind, and soul is connected. And it is through being highly sensitive person that I believe sets us on a path of becoming a healer and a practitioner of healing arts to help many other people who perhaps don't have the same gifts as I do, Alejandro does, and perhaps you do, and your listeners as well. So for me, I was a very sick child. I've suffered, I think Alejandro did too, from bronchitis and pneumonia and ear infections. And then when in my 20s, we moved to Florida, I actually had extremely complex asthma, you can say. It was asthma. My lungs were functioning at 26%. So it was pretty devastating. And I remember finding a pulmonologist because we just moved to Florida and I didn't have a doctor at that time. And the pulmonologist said, we're going to have to hospitalize you. And I said, well, I don't want to go to the hospital. I was a young mom too, and just started working as a pharmacist. And he said, okay, but you'll have to sign a form that you are refusing treatment. But here's what I'm going to tell you. You're going to be on 6 medications for the rest of your life. And I just remember thinking, wow, I'm in my early 20s. And it was steroids, inhalers, all kinds of things. And I just thought, this is absolutely not the life I want to live. So it was a big change for me, changing my diet, also recognizing there was mold in my house. And it took me on this beautiful path. Usually when we do become really sick, it takes us on a path of going deeper and trying to understand, why am I sick? Where is it coming from? And recognizing we're not the victim of that situation, but there's something we can do by claiming sovereignty, making changes in our own life. And I remember my first son actually was born quite sick as well. He had severe eczema, and they put him on steroid medications when he was a baby as well. So that was also a learning process, as a young mom, how certain things in the diet can impact the gut microbiome. So one thing led to another. And I would say, Nicole, for you as well, right? Your chronic condition in your 20s has led you to be where you are today.
Yeah, I speak about this often to my audience, in that it's so important to not avoid your pain, to follow it, to go deeper into it, because that's where your purpose is lying. Your purpose is found through your pain, and then you repurpose your pain into your greatness, into your potential. And that's what I think a major role that our pain plays for us in this lifetime. And so much of us, there's so many people that complain about not knowing what their purpose is. And I totally understand how frustrating that can be. But oftentimes the purpose is found by repurposing your pain, but you can't repurpose it until you are deeply acquainted with it.
Yes, and for some of us, it is becoming a healer, a provider, an educator. And for others, it's really just about, and all of it actually stems from mastering yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
whether you make a decision to become a practitioner, an educator, a healer, it's really an individual journey. But there's so many gifts that you can share with the world by just embracing your own pain and your own.
Yeah. First and foremost, the journey has to be about self. It cannot be about anyone else, or it's never going to go as deep as it needs to go, or you're never going to be able to actually help as many people. For myself, that virus was contracted sexually. It was HPV, but it led me down a road that has now taught me how to help women do womb healing and fertility healing and sexual abuse healing. And there's so many things that I've uncovered through that journey that I would have never known 25 years ago that this is where it was going to be taking me. But slowly, as I continue to go through this, little bits were revealed to me, and it starts to build. And it, as you're ready for the next level presents itself. And that's just, I think, the organic process of this entire experience here on Earth as a human. And I'm really excited to have both of you here on the show today to share, because there are so many, not only are there so many health issues that are coming up here for that people don't even understand why they're feeling the way they are, but you really are teaching people how to reclaim their energetic sovereignty, which I'm a huge advocate for. I think that's one of the biggest lessons here as a soul, is to take back your power and to understand how powerful you truly are. There isn't anything that isn't able to fully heal itself, as that's what the body was designed to do. It's just a matter of getting into vibrational alignment so that can assist. Alejandro, when do you come into the picture? When did you guys meet, and how did you find each other?
Well, I've learned to stay in the present moment
Mm-hmm.
or in the now. I'm always in the now, here or somewhere else. But well, I came into the picture 5 years ago.
Okay.
Yes. And that's when we started looking into the relation between emotions, the energetic signatures that the viruses or bacteria leaves and or imprints in the person's biofield, and then figuring out what frequency that is and what events match that frequency. I've always been extremely interested in people's behavior since I can remember. Always been quite the observer. So when I came across Dr. Hawkins' book, it was like it opened a wider door in which I felt like I had to put on my Indiana Jones outfit on and began exploring a totally different realm, of things. And we both shared a similar purpose, which was doing what we are passionate about, but always thinking that our main goal is to contribute towards the betterment and the well-being of the human collective. We had no idea of what this was going to lead us towards to, move us towards to. So, and we know that it is always in progress, this journey never ends. So now we feel like we're on the right path, but we're always conscious that it continues to evolve, right? As we interact with more people and we come across new findings that expand our perspective and diminish our judgment towards anything, especially towards the things that cannot be proven scientifically.
Yes.
Right? It can only be felt with the heart and with the alignment with one's soul or higher self.
I'm curious to know, because clearly the work that you're doing requires a very open mind and a lot of humility, because there's, like you said, if you're going to be on this path, you have to be willing to know that there's going to be points where you may have to readjust the way you thought something was going to work or the way things are. And so did you ever come across anything that truly hit you in a way where you're like, wow, I wasn't expecting that, or I didn't think it worked this way? Is there anything you could share with the audience? Because I think it's so important to be really open on this journey.
One thing,
quite a few, actually.
It happens a lot, but I'll just say that in the work that we do, it is important that we take ourselves out of the picture. We get out of the way, because in order for us to share and retrieve the information from the field with absolute integrity, we cannot have our pre-existing belief systems interfere. So there's been a lot of like, wow, like I wasn't expecting it, but then it's like, okay, that makes sense, right? Do you want to share some?
Well, one of the things was alignment with divine purpose. We measure the person's alignment with their divine purpose. And going back a little bit to the purpose topic.
Yes.
I didn't want
people love to talk about this. It's
yes.
a major topic here. People are there's so many people that are really still looking for their purpose, and or they may have found it and now they're realizing it's no longer their purpose and they need something new. So
yes,
this will be great.
For many years, I asked the same question, and I was quite frustrated. I mean, I was doing well with in business, but I thought it felt there was something missing. And I think, is this really my purpose, to remain on this path, right? And to just make more money and project myself for the next year to make 2x, 3x of what I'm making now. And that is really the norm, I would say, for most of us, right? For most people. but I felt this void, and I thought, what is my purpose? And I would ask, you name all the angels you can come up with, all the angels' names, and this, I spoke with spoken to God directly as well, asking, what is my purpose? Just tell me, send me an angel with a written note, and I will follow it to the T. I just want to know that I'm on the right path, and I am following my purpose. But anyways, I never got the answer. No specific answer. No angel dropped from heaven and delivered that note
in a bottle.
Right, in a bottle, and I found that at the beach. And but I can say that I came to the realization that we all came here to experience three things, right? To experience freedom, joy, and expansion and growth, right? Expansion, growth. And I will say that if we can make joy our priority, that will help us to experience more freedom. I will say the more freedom we experience, the more joy we're going to experience in the role that we're playing in this reality. And expansion happens, I will say, by default. So if we just think as those three things, expansion, joy, and freedom, the rest unfolds like magic on its own, right? And without having a specific purpose in mind, it would just unfold. Whatever it is that we do, rather professionally, as long as we have those three things in mind and make those our top priorities, that reveals your purpose in whichever way or shape or form you're expressing consciousness, or you're expressing, or you're allowing God to express itself through you, right?
But the surprises. So she's asked what surprises we've had.
So going back to the alignment with divine purpose, the surprise was that at first, especially me, I thought, okay, I linked divinity with goodness and the highest good of all, and divinity with being in alignment with God's will. But then we came across in this case, this is a specific individual. They vibrated at the frequency of 25, incarnated at 25, was born at 25, and his overall frequency was also 25, right?
Wow.
And then we measured the alignment with divine purpose, and it was at 100%. We measured the joy, how much this person was enjoying the role they're playing in this reality, 100%. Then we measured how much time this person spends in the present moment, in the now, 100%. Then we thought, okay, how is this possible? And then when we looked into it and tried to figure out what this person was doing and how this person perceives reality, and we thought, okay, this doesn't match. How is it they're not doing what we consider as goodness?
Yes.
And how is it that they are fully aligned when it comes to their divine purpose? So that's one of the most
the conclusion
revelations
we came to, and that was a big example that I like to use, is if you think of our reality as, in a way, a game or a stage where people perform, right? You have actors. And actors are hired by the producer, you can say the creator. And we have characters that are playing the Batman role. That's the example I like to use, or the Joker, right? So the actors themselves, from a soul perspective, if you zoom out, we can't say they're good or bad, right? But they're embodying certain roles, so therefore certain frequencies. And the other thing that we realized, right? So when you are in the theater and you're watching, you're not judging the actual actor. You're just looking at the character roles that they're playing out. And this is how we began to perceive our reality, through those revelations and findings that creation itself First of all, everything in the universe that exists is part of creation, whether it is shadow or the light. You can never experience the light without having the contrast. And those people who are artists, you know, you have to, in the sketching, right? When you're doing sketching, you have to put the shadows in order to showcase,
Yes.
let's say, a face that you're drawing, right?
Mhm.
And the same thing goes for the frequencies and vibrations, that this duality of the polarity exists everywhere. Because some people also said, oh, it's only in this reality. It is only on planet Earth where we're experiencing this contrast of like the good and the bad, the evil and, you know, and the light. But what we've recognized through revelations is it actually exists everywhere. It is how the consciousness and the creation itself learns and expands. And that is what quantum physicists are also showing.
This is a great example to use as purpose, because it completely goes against the grain of what many people believe, especially in any kind of spiritual path or community, is going to understand that we're constantly thinking that our role here is to be of the highest light. And for some of us, I think that might be true, but it's true. I've often thought about the people in my life who maybe have played a role that has caused a lot of challenges for me or has caused a lot of pain in my life, but they played their role perfectly. And so even though it may have been what we consider a lower vibration, they were truly living out what they were meant to live out for, at least in my circumstance. I can speak of that. And I think we forget how, like you were saying, how important it is to have the contrast. And that's why I've been talking lately for at least the last year or two with my audience about how important it is to not only not avoid the darkness, but not understand the purpose of the darkness, and that it's not your job necessarily to remove the darkness, because without it, we can't have, like you said, that contrast or that background to understand how wonderful the light is. So without having the depth of light and darkness against each other, we'll never truly be able to appreciate either or. And so I think that's a great example, and what an interesting finding. You know, when you were talking, Alejandro, about purpose, I agree with you that, you know, finding what lights you up is really important, like what it brings you joy, what you like doing. It's something that I've used in my entire life as a barometer on making big choices, even small choices, but we often get really hung up on the really big ones where we're finding ourselves at a fork in the road on our destiny. And there's been times where I've been up against two choices that both make me happy, or at least I believe they do. But there was one that always had me much more excited inside. And I have lately been creating some kinds of meditations for people to listen to, especially when it's about, whether it's about healing or manifestation, to shift it out of a vibration of very relaxing and calming music to something that's really high energy and excitement, where you feel like every cell in your body is dancing. And I feel like when you get into that state, that's where the magic really starts to happen. It's almost like that dancing energy that's excited is such a power force for magic to occur.
Yes, definitely. I totally agree. It is the key, I would say, to open any door, right? To pay attention to the way you feel and allow that to guide you. And only the experience brings the knowing, right? And from there you can expand. And just like an artist with a blank canvas, you can just create what you're allowing to flow through you. And if you're in that state, what you pointed out, you know, the feeling this excitement and feeling joyful, that's when divine intelligence flows freely without any resistance whatsoever, you know.
Have you both found, when you're doing when you're using your technology to measure different vibrations, and how does that kind of excitable energy show up, or how is that have you come across any findings where you've noticed whether it's rapid healing or strengthening of the field? Like, is there anything that you've noticed with that kind of energy that we're talking about, like opens the doors for magic to occur?
So just to reframe the question, you mean, have we tested different systems to see if it's what creates a shift, or looking at different parameters in people to see if there's certain aspects to opening that or creating a shift within their life?
Yeah, like, have you been able to measure where someone may come in at a certain frequency, but then like if they start to exhibit different perspectives or emotions that do kind of come into that field of excitement and joy and like happiness, dancing kind of energy, how does that shift things for them in their field?
I would say that the most important thing is to focus on how much they have overcome. When we show them the numbers or the frequencies that they have experienced throughout their life, and they look back and realized, oh my God, I've been through so much. And they can remember the pain and the struggles, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they had no idea of what frequency they were having these experiences at. So when we reveal that, and they realized, oh, I incarnated at this frequency, and then I dropped at birth at this frequency, and it is due to whatever the mother was experiencing during the pregnancy. During pregnancy. And then they start seeing how they stay at that frequency for many years, and then all of a sudden they start climbing and experiencing higher frequencies. So focusing on how much the person has overcome is extremely powerful. Mm-hmm. Because and I will say that we have learned on how to share the information that we're revealing with our clients, and a way in which they shift their focus towards with that thing that has helped them or served them as a catalyst, and how much they were able to overcome, right? And instead of dwelling in the drops, or dwelling in the low frequencies for too long. And it's good to look back to understand it on a deeper level, mm-hmm. to reach the realization as of which this is how it served me, in relation to what you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
And then it's easier to let that go.
But there's two parameters out of, let's say, 36 mm-hmm. that we look at. And those usually are the ones we call the guiding light. So in most cases, people that tend to shift in their life have two things. They are committed to personal growth. So they usually have a higher number or higher vibrational frequency in their personal growth aspect. And the other one is creativity. The one thing that most people don't realize is we're all creative. Mm-hmm. And creativity stems from being inspired. And that's the excitement that you're talking about. It's reconnecting to your childlike essence of being in a state of wonder. And when we can connect to that, it is extremely powerful. Because when you feel inspired on a daily basis, you're going to create more of that for yourself and people around you. You become a magnet of inspiration to other people as well. So I would say those two parameters are the key in shifting one's life.
Interesting, because I recently created a womb of activation course where we focused on that center, which of course is where the creativity rests or is birthed mm-hmm. through that portal. And I've noticed that as I was creating that, especially like a lot of the meditations and the activations for that particular course, that I myself was almost on a high and started just receiving even more information. It's like it opens a floodgate. That it's more and more and more. Mm-hmm. And that's really cool. I've never heard that before, that is the greatest shifts, or I guess where there's I don't know if the greatest shifts is the right way to term it, but big shifts within people happen through the creative process, more creativity and more personal growth is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And also the other important factor is to, by realizing how much those low moments, we can say, throughout your life have impacted you and helped you to get to where you're at the moment. You can also release the resistance. And by doing that, you're no longer activating low vibrational frequency filters when the information comes through you, right? Or to you. And by doing that, you can enhance your intuition. And then when the information comes to you, since you're not activating resistance, then you can incorporate that into your creativity aspect and take your creativity through the roof. Because you're not only channeling information that has already been experienced and recorded in this realm, but you're also channeling information that hasn't been experienced at all. And since you have released the resistance, you're no longer judging it. And therefore you're open to just apply it because it feels good, because it brings you joy.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And it's funny because when I was creating this womb of activation course, one of the key womb essentials that I go over in the course with everyone is the power of letting go. And that it's so essential to let go so that what needs to come in, obviously there's space for it. When you're resisting, you're obviously pushing, and what is trying to come towards you isn't able to. And so I completely agree. The resistance is an absolute, dropping the resistance is a very key element within all of that. And then what is allowed to come in is often way beyond what you even were able to perceive initially. So I'm curious to know, Elena, how did you use this technology on yourself to heal, or how did you work with I know you said diet and all that, but when you came across the scalar technology and created it yourself, did you apply it to yourself or any loved ones that really made a dramatic improvement?
Of course. So it's something that I use with all of my clients now.
Yeah.
It's part of a bigger system, and I'll explain what it is. There's so many different ways we can use it. One way, of course, is reading the vibrational frequencies. That helps a person understand themselves. The second part would be reading the person's biofield and figuring out, okay, what are some of the imbalances going all the way deep into somebody's DNA. The one thing I have to say, I do use it on most of my clients, on myself, on Alejandro, our kids. It is important to remember you cannot just use scalar wave technology on somebody, which is frequencies that are customized to the person who needs different aspects of rebalancing and harmonizing of their field. And the reason it shouldn't just be used by itself, because we're still living in a dense 3D world. And it's important that you have somebody who knows how to test a person to make sure they know how to change their diet, right? How to change their thought process to see if there's bacteria, toxins in the system. Because without addressing the physical system, it doesn't matter how much energy, scalar energy you're sending to somebody, there's going to be blockages. And that energy is not going to be able to penetrate and help in the best way possible. So it is a holistic system where the body has to be addressed first, right? A person's day-to-day habits. And I'll say that one of the dangers right now on the market that we're seeing is there's so many different products that are coming out. And we've had people reach out to us and say, what do you think about this product? Which in Vibration Revelations, we've actually revealed many, many different systems on the market. And people will say, all I do is just push a button and I receive all the healing that I need. And I'll say, what are you pushing a button for? Do you even know what you're healing? No, I don't. I'm like, okay, well, do you know if your liver is off balance? How do you know this is balancing your liver? Well, this is the program it's running. So what we found over time, and this is one of the things that I teach people because there's so many things on the market, there's ways to test. Okay. And just keep in mind, if somebody's promising you to push a button for you, and all of a sudden, miraculously, everything heals, but you've never changed your diet, you've never changed your lifestyle, your thought process, well, guess what? It's not going to work. So
I have been saying this for a few years now. Convenience is what kills your energetic sovereignty. So if you're trading it off. So if you're not willing to be a participant in your own healing journey, then you're giving away your energetic sovereignty, which is what got you here in the first place.
Exactly. And it's actually very similar to what the pharmaceutical industry is doing.
Yes,
I know
it's exactly the same mentality.
It's the bypassing, yes.
Well, that's how most of us have been programmed, right?
Yes.
To rely on the one pill fix all.
Fix it.
And
the one magic elixir.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. Like I had people come to me years ago and say, Elena, so-and-so send me to you, please fix me. And I'll say, here's the deal. I'm not here to fix you. Why don't we talk about how I can guide you on a journey to where you can begin to heal, right? And this is ultimately my teaching is, you want to find a practitioner that is going to give you all the right tools for you to do the work, right? Because I can give you an hour of session with me and I can give you your diet, your customized plan, what you need. But if you're not going to incorporate it in your life, I can't do it. You cannot do it.
Yeah, I would say the only two things are could be prescribed for everyone: God and honey.
That's so Alejandro loves honey, as you can see. This is
Okay. But it's what you're talking about is codependency, and people just think about codependency as in their human relationships. But you can have a codependent relationships are very toxic to our own well-being, and again, because it is infringing upon sovereignty. And so if you're leaning towards something because you think it's going to fix you, it may be able to assist you in your journey and in your healing process. But you don't ever want to think that something outside of you has more power than you. And you've got to be in a position where you're utilizing your number one power. Because again, I keep saying, and I'll continue to keep saying that I believe the human body is one of the greatest technologies on this planet.
Yes,
exactly.
And we're just not willing to understand it on a deeper level. But if we took the time to really understand, and I'm starting to understand how powerful the technology is, but it's come through decades of the journey, and you've got to be willing to put in the work and the time. Like you said, self-mastery is why we're all here. So what explain if you could just give us an example of one of the healings that you use, maybe for yourself or your kids, or how the technology works.
I think healing is an ongoing journey. As we're evolving and shifting, so does our body. Yeah. Right. And our body it goes through different seasons of evolving and shifting and changing. And it's always about, okay, well, today maybe, or this month, for example, I'll give an example with myself. I'm noticing, okay, my digestive system is not liking something. So then, I can test myself and see, okay, well, maybe this is the month I'm going to avoid tomatoes and peppers, and maybe salads are not a good idea this month for me, even though it's my favorite thing to eat, just because my digestion is needing something else at the moment. So it's always a relationship that I have by paying attention to my physical body first. As far as scalar wave technology, so using it also in different ways. If I need to support my colon, we'll program for myself, I'll program a field to send scalar wave sessions that are dependent on what is happening in my system. For example, because we are out in the public eye all the time, we have to check our own biofield to make sure that it's clear. That it doesn't have any interferences, so we can actually check our soul gate and see if our soul gate is having interferences. If there's something coming in from an external source that is creating the disturbance, we want to make sure that it's cleared from our field, so it can be used in that way. So it can be used for physical things to help your body and your biofield, or the ideal blueprint of yourself, to harmonize and balance, and also clear it based on what is happening individually in that person's field. Like we've actually had recently somebody that wanted us to check. They went and experienced this new technology that is very hot on the market. We're not going to name what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And she felt something was off, and we did check, and actually her biofield, you can say, was hijacked from using this technology. So she asked to kind of scan her field and go through clearing process. So this person was very aware and conscious of it and requested for that. But it takes, I would say, a certain individual to want to know, to see what is going on.
We revealed this device or system
in our
a few weeks ago in a membership, and she's a member of
Vibrational Relations, yes.
Vibrational Relations community. But it just happens that day she had to babysit her grandkids, so she
didn't know the frequency of that
device. Of this device, and it was extremely low, right? But she experienced it, and she noticed, I mean, very clearly that she was definitely not being herself, and she got sick, physically physically as well, because it begins
in the etheric field,
in your electromagnetic field, and then that is projected onto your physicality, and it is being revealed in the form of symptoms, right? Where your symptoms are telling you, there's an imbalance and that needs to be nurtured and attended to.
So there's so many different ways we can use it.
Well, discernment is so important on this journey, and it's like everything, it's constantly evolving, and there's lessons to be learned, and there's no shame in being taken for certain things, because it's how you learn, it's how you understand, and how to look for the next thing, so that you don't fall into some of the traps that are definitely well embedded within the medical and even the natural healing fields all around. So
yes,
one of the things, so I apologize, sorry.
No, I said that's the key. And that's actually what this lady said. She said, I sat with it and I wondered, why did this happen to me? And I said, it happened to you because you needed to experience it. So you can be the light to share with people in your community. She happens to be in Norway. So you can share it with people in your community who are also falling for this, because you now have experienced it. So therefore you are serving as this light beacon of light.
But at first she said that it didn't feel right. I don't know, and she shared that with her friends who were inviting her to participate in this. And she said, it didn't feel right, it didn't resonate. And I said, no, it was a no from me. But then I gave in because they were pressuring me. And so I ended up doing it. And now I regret it. I said, but it's okay. What is done is done. Now we just have to, address it and balance it and move forward, right? There's no need to go back and lament and expand on that.
Yeah.
It doesn't help.
I've fallen for it in different ways.
I'm sure we all have.
Yeah, we all have. It's just part of the learning process.
Yes.
One of the things that I thought was really interesting when I watched, when I found you both on that video with Lada, is that you were talking about the vibrational frequency of humanity, like the collective consciousness, so to speak, and where it is going to be for 2023. Would you guys like to share some of that information? Because, we're now in the beginning of 2023, heading into what is, I'm sure, going to be another revolutionary year for all of us, as it should be. What have your findings been coming out of, I guess, the 2020, 2021 era, where we all were in this very weird experience on this world that none of us have ever experienced before, and now kind of coming beyond that? What have you seen happening with the evolution of human consciousness?
So it's fascinating. I'll touch on it and then maybe you can expand too. So leading up till 2020, beginning of 2020, we actually read the Human Collective Consciousness, and I think it was around 220 something. I can't remember exactly, but it was about 230. Okay.
And so that's for everyone who may not understand, that's a constructive level of consciousness because it's above 200.
Yes,
like
it's what we call the frequency of heroism. We broke it down into 5 categories. Frequencies of 0 to 199 is the victimization mindset, you can say, or victim consciousness. 200 to 499 is activation. This is where you begin to recognize you're connected to everything else around you and you're an active participant. And then we go into the frequencies of inspiration, where you feel inspired. 500, you go into the flow state. To 699, and then 700 to 999 is what we call illumination. And then the 1000 frequency is the divine essence that exists actually in absolutely everything, right? It's part of the creation itself. So the 230 was the activation. We were in this activation phase, and then
the
pandemic happened, right?
2020 happened.
2020 happened, and we saw a huge, big kind of dive downward. And we went into the frequency of the collective consciousness of 100. And this is what we recognized was what we call the collective trauma. And until enough of us awaken and do the work of really taking the full responsibility for everything that happens in our life, and recognition that we are co-creators, where, it is about claiming our sovereignty. And this is why we are where we are, including today. So 2020 was the fear and worry frequency. Last year, or 2021, I think it was around there. And then we went into 125, which is this unfulfilled desire, addiction, to where, okay, we're ready to just create a massive change, right? And we did an entire episode on world events, historical events, connecting that frequency to different revolutions and different wars that happened around the world, going back to French Revolution, and then looking at the Russian Revolution, World War I, World War II.
The Great Depression as well.
Great Depression. We saw that there was a specific pattern from a frequency perspective and the human collective. And then this year we revealed, which is what you saw in the episode, the vibrational frequency of human collective for 2023. And there's definitely a shift. And that shift is into the frequencies of 150 until the last few months of the year, where we go into 175. So we are this year making big progress. Lara called it, what does she call humanity? Teenagers. She said, we're rebels, the teenagers. So I'm like, okay. Yes. And the 150 is anger, right? And it will take anger to create a massive shift.
Yes. And we've seen that when we do the lifetime vibrational frequency analysis for people, and from birth up to now, and when they reach that point of 150, you see two things. Rather, they go back to a lower level, or that catapults them to a higher level. And most often than that, actually serves as a catalyst.
Yes,
they're being propelled to experience high levels of consciousness, and if that anger serves people well, it's like, it's time. I've had enough of this. There has to be something else, something better. I'm tired of dealing with the same thing over and over. I've had it, and now what's more? And usually go from the 150, which is anger, into the 175 pride, where they feel a little more comfortable with the situation on themselves. And I made it. Look, that's a pride.
But it's still asking for the external approval.
Right.
Yes.
Asking for external approval, because there's too much resistance at that point. And they figure, okay, what else? And then they go into courage, or the power end of the spectrum, where it begins at 200, right? And now they're willing to explore it all, and
but we're not at 200 this year. So we're talking about this year.
Not. But yes, we're not.
But this year it's 150.
We're on our way.
Yes.
And how is it that what's happening towards the end of the year that's causing a bit of a shift in like increasing it from 150 to 175?
Yeah. I mean, for us, we don't know. We just look at vibrational frequencies and patterns. I believe Lada said there was something astrologically. So for those people that are interested, that know astrology, there is something that happens astrologically of how the planets align and what that contributes to, I don't know, because I'm not, neither Alejandro nor I are well versed.
Everything stems from
I wonder if it's
the inner dialogue, right?
Okay.
No, but she says why.
Right.
Collectively.
So you can, just by observing a child, so how their behavior, how they interact with their parents when they're told what to do, what not to do, right? Collectively, at first, we're still in the stage to the majority are not taking full responsibility, and they are relying on an external force, or they're relying on the government, they are relying on the
medical
system to tell them what to do or what's next, right? They're relying on other people's predictions of what's going to happen. But they have had enough experience up to this point to start questioning things, to where, oh, I gave all of my power to this institution. I gave all of my power to the government to dictate what's next, or what is it that I have to do, or what I can do for me. And they have, the majority are coming to the realization that, okay, this is really not working that well. There's got to be something else, right? So I think it is just, since we have by default this ability to feel and discern, right? We can exercise our free will as well and make the right choices when we're in alignment, when we're in faith, right? So we pair the two, free will and exercise our free will with faith or with alignment. Then we start opening up a bigger door, and able to widen our perspective and freeing ourselves from this codependency that you pointed out earlier. And then when you experience that, then you start feeling more empowered and more capable of figuring out of what's next for your own good, right?
I wonder if it's the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Taurus.
See, I don't know. Maybe we have to see Lida's video.
It feels like it might have something to do with that, because that would be happening definitely towards the later part of the year, if I'm not mistaken. But that's really interesting. And so, do you also find the way Dr. Hawkins talks about in his book that, obviously frequency works in a logarithmic way, where the higher your consciousness is and the longer you can sustain it, the more you have an impact just as one person on a lot of people, right? So, I mean, we're all connected into some degree, but we all have our own individual journeys, and no one can step on anyone else's journey or try to infringe upon it. But just by you doing you and, really kind of working towards your highest aspirations and goals and joy and excitement, that you can maintain a higher frequency. And just by doing that, you have a massive impact on the collective consciousness.
So I would like to first say that every frequency on this planet of every human being matters, because we're all a part of one, okay, in the creation itself. And again, and everyone plays an important role. So we can't say that those, the goal is for everyone to be in a high frequency and not be in the lower frequency. Some people are just here for that purpose. But if you're being called to step into your light, HeartMath Institute has done a lot of research now showing that when you are in your heart coherence, when the brain and heart are in sync, right, we're generating this huge torus field that has the ability, it's like the Maharishi effect, right? Where you, by just standing in your light, in your power, in your state of coherence, you're able to, like the tuning forks, right? Or like the musical instrument, you're able to tune those that are close to your vibration to helps raise the vibration by default, of those that are close to you. Now, if there's a drastic gap, I don't think it's going to impact people in the same way who are choosing to be in the frequency of 20, because that's where they're meant to be. You know, in many cases, some people are choosing to be that. So the closer you are to the higher vibrational frequencies, absolutely is going to create a global shift, a massive impact based on the science that is coming out now through the HeartMath Institute.
I would say that we send an open invitation, and for those that are open to receive it, will be able to experience higher levels of consciousness. So I wouldn't say that it is by default, right? That we are increasing the overall frequency or the level of consciousness of the human collective, but we are definitely generating an open invitation, and for those that are ready. So it has to do with the level of readiness, to discern it, to recognize this opportunity, this invitation. Then yes, they will have plenty of signs to be able to reap the benefits from what other people have accomplished.
And the other thing to remember, going back to the sovereignty, no one can raise your vibration for you by default, right?
Yes.
You have to become sovereign yourself. You have to step into your own light in order to activate and align with others who are in the same, perhaps, or higher vibrational frequency. So this is the other key to remember. It cannot just happen by, if you're not in resonance with yourself, you're not going to be resonating with higher frequencies.
Yeah. And I think what it can do, it's just like with anything, two very different frequencies walking into a room will feel very uncomfortable with one another. Yeah. And so either that discomfort will either be a catalyst for desire to change that discomfort in whatever way that might be, that can come out in different ways. But it's like, just as we teach ourselves to, as we move into higher frequencies, and this is what we're choosing, because this is where we're wanting to experience ourselves, that we can also learn to not be the sponge empath and take on every frequency around us, I don't like to say to protect yourself, because I think that means you're being attacked, but just more of strengthening your own field so that you continue to experience everything as you wish to experience. Just the same, I am sure it works in reverse, that anyone who's, say, in a lower frequency, that there may have something intact where they're not allowing like the really high vibe happiness energy to infiltrate, so that they can stay there and continue to do whatever it is that they're doing. And I think it works both ways, and neither is right or wrong. It just is the way it is. And I'm really glad that you reiterated that, because I think that's important. I think oftentimes we find ourselves moving through different stages of this journey, and one of them is the martyr. And that it's our duty to save humanity, and it is not our duty to save anyone. And it's just to allow everyone to have their experience as they're choosing. And I think as you live through the example of your own life and your own choice, that you can inspire others who choose to watch you and pay attention to perhaps, live their life in a way that elevates their own experience. And I've found that this has been, I think, a really important conversation for everyone to hear today. I think there's so many great nuggets of wisdom held within this conversation that I know my audience is going to enjoy greatly. Please let my audience know where they can find you. And also, if you've got anything going on that they can join in on, please let them know.
Oh, thank you so much. So you can find us, Alejandro. What is
Vibrational Revelations.
vibrationalrevelations.com is our community, and then the rest of it is under Holistic platform, holistic with a W, holistic.com.
Yes.
I do have a training coming up. Perhaps, Nicole, it will be a great opportunity for you to also attend. It's called Holistic Quantum Healer, and this is a year-long training. People will come in person first. It's coming up at the end of February, and then it's a year of Zoom practices where people learn the skills for diagnostic tools on how to pinpoint what is happening in a person's body. So whether it's you're a licensed medical provider, or you are a healer or a life coach or a mom, or you just want to know how to do these things. So there's two aspects. One is energy work, learning how to tune in into another person's body and help them move the energy. And part two is diagnostics and creating customized, precise protocols for each person. So that is coming up.
But it's not Reiki.
No. Oh, yes. I know. People
confuse
have
it with
asked.
Reiki, but
And it's not quantum touch. So no.
It's so funny because on my podcast that I aired with my girlfriend, Erica, she's an intuitive, and she did a popcorn reading like on the live chat and just was taking questions. And some of the questions were coming from people who are really going into some form of healing. And I think there was once or twice it came up where they're like, should I be taking this course? And it was like, there's something else that you might be interested in more that is in more alignment with where you'd like to go. And who knows, maybe it's your teaching here for anyone in the audience who's listening today. Maybe you've resonated more with Alejandro and Elena and what they're offering. And I will leave all of the links to everything you've got in the show notes so people can find you easily. Thank you both for coming on the show today and sharing your journey and your wisdom. I think you probably leaving people feeling inspired, which is a great frequency to leave everyone with. And to my audience, if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a comment on Spotify in the Q&A, or leave a comment below in YouTube, or please leave a review on Apple or Spotify. It greatly helps this podcast be found by others who are looking for this information but may not know where to find it yet. And it also supports the work. So thank you very much, guys. I love you, and I will see you next week. Thanks again for joining me for another show on the Enlighten Up podcast. I love you guys so much for all of your continued support. So remember to raise your vibe, find your tribe, and be open to the infinite possibilities held in the mysteries that surround us all. Thanks again for sharing the show with your family and friends. And if you're new to the show and you need to find out more information about me, please head on over to my website, NicoleFrolick.com, where you can join my newsletter. And please follow me on Instagram, Telegram, and YouTube. Keep your light bright, and I'll see you next week.